Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round 9 of the Swarbrick.com Formula Alpha Championship for 2024. I've missed a couple of rounds of this now, which is a great shame because it is one of my personal favourites. It's great to see the drivers using some Formula 1 machinery and putting them to their limit as well here at Shanghai for round 9, of course. We returned here in the world of Formula 1 for the first time in quite a while, the first time in the ground effect era, so let's see what our drivers make of these cars. Just over 5 minutes to go in qualifying. You don't have an update as to how the session is going, but I do, so I'll tell you. It is Barry Clayton on provisional pole at the moment, then we have Will Inglis, Matt Daly, Paul Millman, Guy Swarbrick and Alan Thomas are 6 drivers competing this evening. Now, Matt Daly is on the C1 tyre. That is the hardest compounder tyre we have available to us this evening. We're on board with Matt Daly at the moment as he runs down into the penultimate corner. And that's an odd choice. Maybe he is treating this as a bit of a testing session. Either way, even on that C1 tyre, as he dives into that penultimate corner, there goes a little bit deeper into the corner. He's on a 1:38.5, so still a very good lap time there. That puts him P3 at the moment, even with that harder compound of tyre. Will Inglis, we can't go on board with him, we can't really choose who we go on board with at the moment. Will Inglis, as I say though, is lapping very nice indeed on the DRS, heading into this lap. He's about to head through the final corner now and start the lap. We're on board though with Paul Millman. Will Inglis is very close behind Barry Clayton, only 200ths of a second separate those two drivers. And Will Inglis will start the next lap. Now we're on board though with Paul Millman as he runs down the back straight. That's incredibly long back straight on this Herman Tilke designed circuit, heading into that first corner now. He's on his 5th attempt in qualifying is Paul Millman. That was a personal best at middle sector as well. Lost a little bit of time through the first corner. It's a very complex set of corners is that run through the first sector, that first big corner on this circuit. It's one where you can cost yourself so much time. As Paul Millman crossed the line there, he does in fact improve. It's 1:38.4 that time round. We're back on board with Matt Daly here as he goes personal best through the first sector, still on the C1 tyre. A brave choice by Matt Daly. Just over 3 minutes to go in this session. It's Guy Swarbrick actually who's set the most laps. He's also on the C1 compound of tyre at this moment in time. There's been contact between Alan Thomas and Will Inglis as they headed through into the final sector. That was turn 11. Again, another crucial corner on this circuit, that braking zone through one of the other high-speed elements of the circuit. You want to nail the exit of turn 11 because it feeds you straight into turn 12, and as you carry as much speed as possible through turn 12, you run all the way down the back straight. It can cost you a huge amount of time if you lose a bit of pace there, but you've got to be careful. That is one of the parts of the track, as well as turn 6 and turn 2, where you can really overheat the tyres. You can really put too much energy through the tyres and you can quickly compromise your race or your stint. So it's good to see that we've already got plenty of action heading through that part of the lap. Just 2 minutes to go in this session now. Matt Daly abandons this lap, allowing Barry Clayton through. We haven't had an improvement for a little while now between Barry Clayton and Will Inglis. Will Inglis on the C5 side, Barry Clayton on the C2. And as I was saying, we know that there are certain parts of this lap which can cost you a little bit of performance tyre-wise, as we're on board here with Barry Clayton, who does end up facing the wrong direction. Contact with Will Inglis as well. Bit of a disaster on this lap. There is Matt Daly, who is able to avoid. That's not what he needs at this phase of qualifying, but yes, we're starting to see a few drivers actually opting for a harder compounded tyre, deciding that the soft stuff just isn't what is needed to get through to the end of even the qualifying lap. So we could be on for quite an interesting development here in the 25-minute races we have coming up to see tyre management woes potentially for a couple of drivers. We're on board at the moment with Guy Swarbrick, currently using that DRS, heading down the back straight. It looks like he's going to improve on this lap. Matt Daly we're on board with now is heading into another lap here. Still running in P3 is into the 36s now. Was previously in the 38. He's now about 5/10 off Will Inglis. He has gone very aggressive running on that hard compounded tyre, and I wonder if Matt Daly does have the pace, and we might see impressive race pace from him. But on this selection of tyre, will he? I just don't think he has a mechanical grip to get closer in the 36s to Will Inglis and Barry Clayton. It's still impressive to see how close he has got, given he is on such a different spec of tyre, but he just can't quite get there, so it seems. We're about to hit 0 seconds on the clock, and we do so now. So the next driver to cross the line will be Will Inglis, as this session does go checkered flag. Matt Daly, though, improving through that first sector. Alan Thomas also improving on this run, but has actually dived into the pits, so apologies there. That'll be all that Alan Thomas, Paul Millen and Barry Clayton can do in this session. Will Inglis next to cross the line, and an important lap coming up for him. And it wasn't to be in the end for Will Inglis. That was actually an outlap, so I don't suspect he'll be able to get another fast run in. Matt Daly coming up next, so heading down that back straight. Actually goes purple through that middle sector. The first driver into the 35s, I believe. That's an impressive run through the middle sector there. A big lock-up from all 4 tyres, though, as he does so. Could that cost him through that middle sector? He's still looking strong on the deltas as he heads through that final corner. The last run down to the start, finish straight. This would see him on pole, and it is pole, a late pole from Matt Daly. That is a great run late on in the session on the C1 tyre as well. Matt Daly takes provisional pole away from Barry Clayton, and I don't think that pole is looking very provisional anymore unless Will Inglis has something to respond with. And I think he might. He lost a little bit of time through the first sector rather, but through the middle sector is looking strong. Half a second up on his personal best, which would see him eclipsing Barry Clayton. We're watching now. Will Inglis heading down that back straight here as he comes to the end of the middle sector, and there is his personal best, using the DRS, of course. Energy systems in their most aggressive state, as well as he dives into that heavy braking zone of the penultimate corner. Another crucial element of the track here. You want to make sure that you get the grip that you need to get the good launch out of the second to last corner, heading through that final corner. Now don't want to wash out too wide and end up in the gravel. And it is Will Inglis who gets a purple sector through the final sector there and takes away provisional pole from Matt Daly. It looks like it will be, and it will be a pole for Will Inglis. I thought he might not have had a chance to get onto another lap here, but he is able to do so using that C5 tyre, a 135.7. Matt Daly is still running out in this session. It looks like he might have been able to actually qualify for another lap, but no, he actually hasn't. That is just him returning to the pits. It is Will Inglis sat on pole for round 9 here at Shanghai. A great drive very late in the session there. That lap just came together towards the end. It was at the start, it wasn't looking too good. Then we had the personal best in Sector 2. Wasn't able to quite match Matt Daly, but it didn't matter. That straight line performance of Will Inglis' car saw him, the 24.3 in the final sector, taking a purple and taking pole away from Matt Daly. So it's a Will Inglis, Matt Daly front row, Barry Clayton, Paul Millen on the second, Guy Swarbrick and Alan Thomas on the third, and Andrew Brammer, who has joined, will be joining in the action as well. So don't go anywhere. It's race 1 in just a few minutes. And welcome back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. We're here on the grid, ready for race 1. So here's a quick rundown of the order. It is Willing Bliss and Matt Daly on the front row. Then it's Barry Clayton, Paul Millman on the second, Guy Swarbrick and Alan Thomas on the third, with Andrew Brammer just closely behind. We're ready to go in just over 30 seconds now, and already we've got a difference in the tyre strategy. So we've got Willing Bliss on the C1 tyre, Matt Daly on the C2, Barry Clayton behind on the C1, Paul Millman opting for the C3. He's going for that early race advantage. It might cost him later on, though. Then we have Guy Swarbrick, Alan Thomas and Andrew Brammer on the C1s for Alan and Guy, and then Andrew Brammer on the C2 as well. So definitely for the harder end of the tyre, because you're going to need that. This track is a bit of a tyre killer, and late on we might see some tyre management. Paul Millman, I should mention, also on the DRS, ready for the launch, as is Willing Bliss. It's 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away for race 1 here at Shanghai. A good launch for everyone there, actually. Alan Thomas getting slightly ahead of Guy Swarbrick heading into this first corner now. We're going to head into the right-hander, that right-hander which is so complex. It can really eat your tyres up or cost you a huge amount of times if you don't absolutely nail the corner. You don't want to sit too tight to the inside. That will cost you time as you head through to turn 3 here. Willing Bliss defending, diving onto the other side of the track. A bit of a back-end step out for Alan Thomas there. He's still under pressure from Guy Swarbrick after that good launch. He's lost a little bit of time there. Big contact between Guy Swarbrick and Alan Thomas there. He's able to recover, actually, as Alan. That is a good recovery. A bit of a 360 pirouette, so he hasn't lost too much time in all of that. He's lost a bit of rear wing, though, and he is in P last, unfortunately for him. And there we can see Willing Bliss defending from 2 fronts here, as Matt Daly, running in P2 at the moment, is trying to hunt him down, but so is Barry Clayton as well. It's a good getaway from Barry Clayton, who's managed to break away from those cars just behind him. Here we see a battle brewing between Andrew Brammer and Guy Swarbrick. It's a good start for Andrew Brammer, given he started so far down the order. Willing Bliss leading this race by half a second. Paul Millman actually keeping up with those out in front and doing a good job. He's using that C3 tyre compound advantage to his benefit at the moment. Let's see if he is able to keep that going, though, as we head later into the race. Barry Clayton having a look down the inside on Matt Daly. Has he got the position? No, he has not. Matt Daly hanging around the outside. It's a good defensive position, heading through that long sweeping right-hander. Matt Daly very much focused on Willing Bliss and actually making contact with Willing Bliss. Willing Bliss rejoins, but is now down in P4. Matt Daly up into the lead of this race. No, he is not. It's Paul Millman in the lead of this race. This could not have gone any better for Paul Millman, and potentially any worse for Willing Bliss. Paul Millman now with that C3 tyre advantage. As long as he's looked after it on lap 1, they shouldn't be too hot at this point. Should be able to defend against Barry Clayton at least for a little while. Barry Clayton versus Paul Millman now for the lead of this race. Matt Daly dropping down to P4, Willing Bliss back up to P3. I'm sure he's devastated, though, with how the start of this lap has gone. On the inside here of Paul Millman, Barry Clayton looking for a way around there. Matt Daly on the outside riding over the curbs. The back end getting very untidy indeed. He is able to get back underway, but has lost a bit of time in doing so. Andrew Brammer currently running in P5 with Guy Swarbrick P6. Alan Thomas quite far down the order, about 9 seconds off the pace. A disastrous start to this race for Alan Thomas. DRS deployed for all 4 drivers running down the back straight, of course, as we go near enough 3 wide. Willing Bliss tries to get an overtake completed, and I think that was a bit of elbows out from everyone there, really, as Willing Bliss is promoted back into the lead of this race. Paul Millman has front wing damage from that. Willing Bliss rear wing and a little bit of front wing damage as well, so the car's not entirely healthy after what has been quite a tumultuous start to this race. And all of this elbows out racing, as I mentioned, has slowly allowed those in the midfield to close back up. Andrew Brammer and Guy Swarbrick now not too far behind from all of this action. Paul Millman down into P3, Matt Daly promoted into P2. Now it's going to be Barry Clayton having a look up the inside of Paul Millman. Let's see what Barry can do from this point in the race. That C3 tyre potentially already starting to wear off a little bit. Usually it would be the medium, of course. Usually in Formula 1 they would only select a choice of 3 tyres from the Pirelli range. However, now we have the full range available at any point. I should also mention DRS DRS can be deployed at any point on the lap as well. You don't need to be within 1 second of the car in front in order to deploy it. Anyone at any point can use it from any lap as well. Here we see Barry Clayton still trying to get the move completed on Paul Millman. Meanwhile, Matt Daly trying to do the same thing here as we see that the back end potentially stepping out a little bit there. No, that might just be the slightly overzealous smoke effects running on the system there. As we head back onto the back straight, Matt Daly will have a bit of a slipstream, and that will help him out slightly, but we know Will Inglis's car is an absolute rocket ship in a straight line. Will Inglis has always been very good at setting up the car for these energy systems, all of the KERS, the MGUK, the MGUH profiles that you have to adjust in these cars in order to get the best out of them. He has been one of those drivers who's been relatively comfortable with that, although I don't think he's particularly enjoyed it. He's got used to it. Paul Millman starts the next lap and is in that slipstream of Barry Clayton as well. We're going to head into that first sweeping right-hander. Having a look up the inside there, but it's an easy defence running through the first corner complex. It's an easy defence here to keep the car behind. Will Inglis purple through the first sector, Matt Daly purple through the second sector, and Will Inglis, despite giving Matt Daly the slipstream, was actually faster through the final sector as well. So Will Inglis has got a car set up nicely for a good defensive position here. He can just break away in the straights. That could cost him a little bit of tyre life later on, though, as he has to work the tyres a little bit harder, potentially scrub them. So it will be careful. He'll have to be careful on those tyres, although he is on a harder tyre compound than Matt Daly, so I'd say more than balances out, and as long as he can keep Matt Daly behind for the next 10 minutes, he's in a good position in this sprint race here. Alan Thomas does drop into the pits to repair the car and dives back out, but is quite a ways off there, so I imagine he's using this as a little bit of testing running almost for a bit of practice for race 2, and of course race 2 will be the reverse grid race. It puts him in good stead for the next race coming up. Here we see Matt Daly having a look around the outside. Not actually using... I was about to say not actually using DRS. The DRS was open. I just didn't quite catch it there. They are now side by side. Who's going to get a better run out of the penultimate corner here? Well, it's going to be Matt Daly who gets a nose out in front and, more importantly, has the inside for the final corner. It's a change for lead. It's Matt Daly in the lead of this race now. A 1:38.0. That was a strong lap from Matt Daly to take the race lead as well. Barry Clayton as well taking P3 away from Paul Millman. They're not too far in the distance at all, actually, is Andrew Bram, a bit of a dark horse in this race potentially. We don't know what his pace is like. We haven't really seen him in qualifying, of course. But on that last lap, he was in the 39s. He was matching the likes of Andrew... Oh, sorry, of course he was matching Andrew Bram. He is Andrew Bram. He was also matching the likes of Barry Clayton so far in this race, so watch out for him later on. We haven't seen a representative lap yet from Alan Thomas. Guy Rubik in the 41s as well, matching pretty much the pace of Paul Millman. Meanwhile, Matt Daly breaking away, using that tyre advantage that he has while he still has it at this stage in the race. And at this stage in the race, we're going to have a quick look at how the championship is forming up. For Alex Smith, it is a clear lead at the moment. Not here this evening, after allow the likes of Will Inglis to catch up with 246 points to Alex Smith. Then we have Will Inglis in P2 with 190 points. Matt Daly P3 with 179. Then we have Andrew Ram at P4 with 147. Paul Millman P5 with 143. Then we have Jack Odson P6 131. Steve Knight P7 114. Barry Clayton P8 89. So it'll be a good race for Barry Clayton this one. We have P9 Andy Crocker with 177. Then we have Alan Thomas P10 66. So again, still, despite it being a poor showing so far in terms of how the race has worked out for him, some points on the card for race 1, and if he starts a reverse race higher up the order with a little bit more practice under his belt, Alan Thomas could be in good stead after this weekend. Guy Strawbrick likewise as well, currently 28 points on the board, running in P6 at the moment, a few more points to take on from this weekend. We've been following along now for a little while with a bit of a battle that is brewing and has been going on actually for some time now. Paul Millman versus Barry Clayton, of course, fighting it out a little bit higher up the order earlier on before Barry Clayton had that unfortunate issue. And now we see it's Barry Clayton on the C1 tyre, Paul Millman on the C3. What I suspect is happening now, and there you can see a lot of front-end scrub coming from Paul Millman. Those medium compounder tyres, 15 minutes into this race, starting to wear off now. Losing their edge and not offering the same mechanical grip and confidence that they were earlier on in the race. So Barry Clayton, if you can find the correct opportunity to get past, should be able to do so with relative ease now. Willingless and Matt Daly are still separated by 2 seconds. Willingless taking the position back from Matt Daly. As we see that harder compound as starts to come into its own this late in the race. I suspect, as we see Barry Clayton now side by side on the DRS, he's going to have the inside. Who's going to be braver? And later on the brakes, it's going to be Barry Clayton. But is he going to wash out too wide into the corner? He might just have done so. Paul Millman stays like tyre, but isn't able to get enough of advantage out of the corner there. So it's Barry Clayton still in P4. As it's someone doing a catastrophically large donut there. That is Andrew Brammer. That's a very odd place to see a car spinning the wrong direction. Looks like he's hit a bit of a wall there. As Andrew Brammer now back into P5. Barry Clayton, Paul Millman in P3 and P4 respectively. Alex Smith is joining, so we should be seeing him in race 2. But Willingless and Matt Daly separated by 1 second now. As I say, yes, that C1 tyre starting to come into its own. I suspect what we're going to see is a couple more cars going up to a harder compounder tyre in race 2. So those on the C3 maybe dropping onto the C2s, and those on the C2s copying their rivals, maybe going onto the C1s. 1 second now separating Willingless and Matt Daly as they head through the middle sector of the lap. Before there's a bit of a back. In fact, no, they headed down the back straight. Sorry, they're going to. I'm going to call it the middle straight. Actually, they've headed through the middle straight, and now they're going to come onto the last straight of the lap. As is that someone else? No, it's Guy Swarbrick with a bit of a lock-up, creating a puff of smoke. As we see Matt Daly not able to keep up, heading down the long straight, even with a bit of slipstream. It looks a bit Willingless's car is slightly faster in the throttle areas of the lap. One second separating these two drivers now. And we have actually some behind the scenes info. We have some confirmation on Alex Smith's situation for this race as Andrew Brammer gets past Paul Millman. That's because Paul Millman is in the pits. There is Alex Smith. He's done that thing that all Formula 1 teams have always done. In fact, I'm sure there are cases of it actually happening. Looking at you, Leighton House, or Arrows, or Minardi, or the original MasterCard loyalty, all of those. He forgot that single seater was this week and not next week. He thought it was a touring car week this week, which, to be fair, I've made that mistake many a time, but the difference is I'm obviously, or usually, or at least aiming to be, there for every event, so it doesn't matter, I just turn up and talk about a car. Alex forgot, and he's going through driving a single seater. But well done, Alex. We've all been there. We have all been there. Anyway, it's Matt Daly, 0.7 of a second away from Willingless, closing up ever so slightly in the slipstream now, heading down the final straight of the lap, the final proper straight of the lap at least. And was a little bit more aggressive on the braking that time, was a little bit more confident on the braking, and has made a couple of tenths as a result. In fact, made up a fairly substantial amount of time heading through the final corner there, setting himself up for an overtake into the first corner of the next lap, potentially. His lap times are better at this stage, which is surprising given the lifespan of this C2 tyre. It is still registered as a hard compound tyre, of course. It's just not the hardest in the range. No one seems to be opting for the C0, the ultimate hardest in the range. And we're seeing at this phase, yes, Matt Daly closing up now, having a look side by side. Are they about to make contact? No, just the horizon closing in on us there as we head into Sector 2 in just a moment. Matt Daly having a look around the outside. That isn't going to work, so he switches back and goes for the inside as they go side by side. Who's got more grip on the outside of the corner? I'll try that again. Apologies. My commentary box is exceedingly warm. It's been a nice warm day finally for the 1st of May, and it's very warm indeed. As we see, it is Matt Daly having a look around the outside now. In the slipstream, he's going to try and dart across. Can he go side by side? Who's going to go later on the brakes? It's not an ideal overtaking opportunity into that corner from that side of the circuit. And aggressive defence there from Will Inglis. Full elbows out, using as much of the track width as possible before we dive back onto the back straight. And there we see Matt Daly now a little bit closer this time around, but only just losing time on the entry into the DRS zone. Not quite as hot onto the DRS activation as Will Inglis potentially. And we seem to be at a stalemate once again. Just 3 minutes to go in this race now. This is the battle for the lead, and the difference in tyre compound seems to be null and void at this point, so my prediction there wrong. We're just seeing an out-and-out battle as we have a bit of lag coming into play potentially there, as they actually made contact on my screen at least. There was contact registered by the server as well. Luckily that didn't seem to affect their grip or their pace or their stability. But they are still very close indeed. Only 0.2 of a second separating these two cars as we head through the first corner complex. And this, I get the sense, is one of those battles that could go on forever and ever and ever. Alex Smith, meanwhile, I should mention, has just set one of the... Oh no, he hasn't set one of the... He set his fastest lap. That's because it's his first proper lap. He's using this, I suspect, a little bit of practice for the upcoming reverse grid race. But we are very much still focused on Matt Daly versus Will Inglis. Heading now into that final sector in just a moment. Bit of a straight before we have the right hand, the long sweeping right-hander into the back straight. Matt Daly staying as close as possible, potentially having a little bit more performance in the corners. He needs to use that to try and get a good run onto that back straight. Be so keen and so eager on that DRS. That's his only hope, really, of fighting into that penultimate corner. He seems to be well off the pace, though, as we get back onto the back straight, to the tune of a few tenths of a second, actually. He seems to have dropped back substantially. Maybe he's used up all of his ERS system. He hasn't got the charge in the battery to have that extra 160 horsepower to catch up to Will Inglis. He dropped back as a result. This is not what he needs at this phase in the race. He's only got a couple more minutes to make that overtaking manoeuvre, and just look there, he's dipped onto the gravel. It hasn't completely upset the car, but it has by no means helped his pace. And there we can see, if you can see on the steering wheel, on the far right hand of the steering wheel, there was a slightly dull green bar. That means that's his energy system, and it is depleted entirely. That car now has 160 horsepower less than Will Inglis is at this phase in the race. He's going to be losing performance heading down the straights, and that is disastrous for his charge for the lead of the race. Well, we thought his charge for the lead might have been over, but only 0.4 of a second separating them. It could be on once again. Matt Daly potentially washing out a little bit wide there. Is that a better line to take onto the start-finish straight? Not too sure myself, but I am by no means a strong authority on this one. And once again, it's just when we get onto the back straight, he just doesn't have the straight line performance to match Will Inglis. He certainly had the bravery to match him heading into that braking zone, into the penultimate corner. I'll try that again. Into the penultimate corner, as he did close up substantially. Now only 0.2 of a second separating these two drivers as we run into the final corner. He's going to have a look down the inside potentially here. We can't quite see, the cameras in the pit lane. And Will Inglis is able to defend once more. This fight, as I suspected, going to go on for quite a while. Heading through turn 3 and turn 4 now. 0.3 of a second separating the black car versus the yellow car as we run into sector 2. On the last lap, it was a 38.3 for Matt Daly. On the last lap, a 38.9 for Will Inglis. Just Will Inglis has the straight line performance to defend, and that is what is keeping him in the lead of this race at the moment. Barry Clayton, our driver on the 3rd spot of the podium, into the pits late into the race. That is a disaster, and what that means is Andrew Brammer, who started last in this race, is promoted up onto the podium. The timer hits 0. We're now on the penultimate lap of this race. And we have our first little bit of lap traffic to negotiate. But Barry Clayton has a big collision with a wall by the looks of things. He is able to carry on, but that's not what he needs as he's now fighting for the podium in this race. Apologies, that doesn't matter anyway. It's Andrew Brammer fighting for the podium in this race. 6 tenths of a second separating Matt Daly and Will Inglis. We're going to run now into the penultimate corner for the second to last time. And it's very much the same situation as it has been in the past few laps now between Will Inglis and Matt Daly. A little bit of, I think he just about avoided the gravel there, but Matt Daly riding over those curbs as the car got a little bit unsettled, weaving about. That's going to cost him some straight line performance as we head on to this final lap of the race now. It's looking good for Will Inglis. Can he defend for one more lap here at Shanghai? It has been a great race, a great battle for the front so far in race 1. We've got it all to go once more in race 2, the reverse grid race coming up in just a few moments. I suspect some changes in strategy and of course a change in the grid order as well. But don't go anywhere, that is coming up in just a few moments. Margin, 1 second between these two cars. Arguably the biggest margin we've seen between these two cars for quite a few laps now. We are heading on to one of the straights before the final straight as we run into turn 11 in just a moment. The gap is 1.3 seconds between these two cars. And here is where Matt Daly has lost a little bit of performance in the past. I suspect we'll be seeing the same once again as he tries to close up on Will Inglis. Will Inglis has been very strong on the energy management of this car and with the straight line performance as well. Nothing that Matt Daly can do at this point. It has been a great drive for Will Inglis as he heads into the penultimate corner. A big four-wheel lock. There is Alan Thomas in front. Bit of a corner cut from Matt Daly there. That isn't going to matter too much though as we round the final corner for one last time in race 1. With a bit of lap traffic to boot, it is Will Inglis who takes the checkered flag. P1 for Will Inglis. Matt Daly P2 in the end after that long battle. Guy Swarbrick classified P6. We have a bit of a wait for Andrew Brammer, who will be coming home on the podium. A great drive from last for Andrew Brammer. So yes, last to third, a great drive for him. Of course, a few points to get him closer to a few more further positions in the championship as well. 43 seconds down off the lead, but he will be coming home. Rounding out the podium, Andrew Brammer P3 in the end, not too far behind. We have Barry Clayton, Paul Millman as well. Alex Smith classified, but I doubt he will actually be classified. Hasn't completed 70% race distance. Barry Clayton coming home P4 there, Paul Millman coming home P5 in the end, of course, battling for the lead at one point in this race. These two still battling even after the end of the race, and that is everyone home now, apart from Alan Thomas, who is a lap down. We'll be joining you in just a few moments as we get ready for race 2, the reverse grid race coming up here in Shanghai. Welcome back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. Just over 30 seconds to go now until lights out. And it's Alan Thomas, Guy Swarbrick front row, Paul Millman, Barry Clayton second. Then we have Andrew Brammer, Matt Daly third, Will Inglis, and Alex Smith rounding out the order for this race. We have seen the abandonment of the C3 tyre from Paul Millman. It's now a mixture of the C1 and C2 tyres. So we see the ref begins to rise. Most drivers are actually jumping straight onto the DRS system, which is an interesting tactic that I wouldn't expect, but it is 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away for race 2 here in Shanghai. A good getaway once again for everyone, particularly Barry Clayton and Matt Daly as they rocket through into the first corner. Nearly a major collision between all drivers, well avoided though by the likes of Alan Thomas. There was a light nudge. Oh, never mind, there is a major collision between all drivers. Paul Millman in the mix there, Alan Thomas, Barry Clayton. That's unfortunate. That is commentator's curse if ever I've seen it. But we are back underway. Alan Thomas is in P4. Matt Daly leads this race. Will Inglis in P2. And I should mention Matt Daly, one of those drivers who has changed tyre compound. Alex Smith and Andrew Brammer still on the C2, but everyone else on the C1 tyre now. So I actually my prediction for once was correct. Matt Daly jumping onto that C1, deciding that he just didn't have the grip potentially later on to fight against Will Inglis. Matt Daly leading from Will Inglis, Alex Smith. Guy Swarbrick is back into P4 as we see Alan Thomas dropping back a little bit by the looks of things, potentially some damage on his car. As we have Barry Clayton running wide there. And ramping P7. Paul Millman on the fourth Dotson, of course, in the mix in that incident, running in P8. Alan Thomas in P7 battling with Andrew Brammer, going around the outside and relenting, actually deciding that he didn't quite have the performance and wanted to just give the room there, so running it into P7 now for Alan Thomas. But it is Matt Daly who leads this race by 3 seconds now. Will Inglis very much focused on the battle with championship leader as he is in the championship standings. We'll have a look at those in a minute. Alex Smith leads the championship but doesn't lead the battle between him and Will Inglis. Will Inglis running in P2 in championship standings and P2 in this race. Both drivers on the DRS there. Alex Smith trying to hunt down Will Inglis, just as Andrew Brammer is trying to hunt down Barry Clayton for P5 here. Guy Swarbrick running well. This reverse grid start has been a good one for him. Running in P4 at the moment, potentially under threat from Barry. In fact, will be under threat from Barry Clayton and Andrew Brammer in just a moment, but running well at this moment in time. Alex Smith still not quite there with Will Inglis just yet, of course, has a little bit less time this race weekend in comparison to Will Inglis, but in terms of the point standings, Will Inglis is a little bit closer after race 1, of course. Alex Smith on 250, Will Inglis on 215, Matt Daly not too far behind in P3 on 197, and we have Andrew Brammer P4 162, with Paul Miller P5 with 153. Then we have Barry Clayton crossing the 100-point barrier in P8. Alan Thomas in P10 with 72 points. He's getting close to Andy Craker. We have Guy Swarbrick in P12. He's jumped ahead of the likes of Philly Swarbrick, Paul Brady, and that is Alex Smith in the barrier there. An unfortunate way to start race 2 as he dropped back down the order into P6, potentially P7 as well, but actually won't be P7. Alan Thomas coming a cropper there. That's a great shame for that fight between Will Inglis and Alex Smith. That does promote, however, Guy Swarbrick into P3 now. So this defence that might be coming up for Guy Swarbrick also needs to start a little bit more as we head into the next couple of laps. Yes, Guy Swarbrick jumping up into P12 in the standings there. Meanwhile, Matt Daly breaking away a little bit, actually having a bit of an off there. He is able to rejoin, but he's currently 6 seconds ahead, has purple sectored the past 3 sectors and set the fastest race lap we've seen all weekend. It's a 136.3, even with a high fuel load and a harder compound tyre. That's a strong lap from Matt Daly there. I think that is the tyre to go for, as we've seen throughout most of the field now. Well, we thought there was going to be a bit of a fight between Barry Clayton and Guy Swarbrick. It looks to be that fight first is going to take place between Barry Clayton and Andrew Brammer. Andrew Brammer having a bit of a look up the inside. It was too far back though to really commit to the corner. So it remains Barry Clayton in P4 for the time being. There we see Andrew Remmer having a quick look up the inside. Wasn't able to commit too much onto the brakes though, so has to stay behind for now. This battling is helping out Guy Swarbrick immensely. If we have a look at their pace at the moment, it is Barry Clayton and Andrew Remmer in the mid 39s. So 139.3 that last lap. Andrew Remmer 139.1. Meanwhile, Guy Swarbrick with a bit of clear air is in the 38s. This is great pace for Guy. We haven't really seen this pace from him this weekend, but he seems to be into a bit of a groove at the moment in the car there, and this battling going on behind is helping him out immensely. That was actually matching Willing Bliss for pace on that previous lap, only a 10th away, so Guy Swarbrick in very good stead indeed for a podium at the moment. 5 minutes into this race, it is very much on the cards, and that would help him immensely in the championship standings as well. So again, we're not biased in the commentary box, but it'd be great to see Guy picking up another podium here in Shanghai. We're seeing once again Andrew Remmer kind of darken the car up a little bit into the inside of the penultimate corner of the lap to see if there is the potential for the overtake. It just, unfortunately, I suspect on the C1 tyre just doesn't have the confidence to go deep into the brakes, to go for a bit of a Daniel Ricciardo style dive bomb, which is probably for the best. Guy Swarbrick a bit of a slower lap that time round, actually lost a bit of pace heading back onto the start-finish straight, and now finds himself losing the position actually into the first corner to not only Barry Clayton, but I suspect Andrew Remmer as well. No, he has actually been able to dive back in behind Barry Clayton, and that is disastrous for Andrew Remmer's charge to fight against Barry Clayton, because he's going to have to get past Guy Swarbrick first. Is Barry Clayton, Andrew Remmer, and as we've seen, Guy's got some decent pace here. He's got some alright pace here at Shanghai, and yes, it's just another car, another obstacle for Andrew Remmer to come against in this race. So we've got 8 minutes into the race so far. It's still all to play for just yet. The strongest part of the strongest bit of life of the tyres has been taken away from them now. They've lost that bit of an edge. They've lost their peak grip now. They are starting to settle into the race a little bit, although the fuel load will be slowly getting lighter. So this is going to be a very interesting three-way battle indeed between Andrew Remmer. Oh, it will not be. Guy Swarbrick, Barry Clayton coming together. A bit of a disaster there for those two drivers. That promotes Andrew Remmer into P3. Alex Smith back up into P4 after that early race instance. Barry Clayton and Guy Swarbrick dropping down to P5 and P6 respectively. A great shame. What a way to bring an end to that battle, unfortunately. saw then a few moments ago a good overtake for position there for Matt Daly, now leading this race, and he's on some great pace at the moment into the 36s, by far and away the quickest lap we've seen from this race weekend so far. Purple through second and third sector, so he seems to maybe tweak the setup potentially, or that harder compound tyre is working very well for him. Zandrama in P3, Barry Clayton in P4, Guy Swarbrick close behind in P5 after the earlier incident. Then we have Alex Smith P6. He's had a few incidents in this race, leaving him in just P6 at the moment. It's Paul Millen P7 and Alan Thomas running in P8. At this phase in the race, we are seeing some strong pace from Guy Swarbrick here. He is keeping up with Barry Clayton. On that last lap, 38.7, Barry Clayton into the 39s there. So, Guy Swarbrick continuing this fight for P4 late into the race. We are into the final 10 minutes now. It is Guy Swarbrick and Barry Clayton on the DRS. There's Paul Millman, sorry, that's Alex Smith rather. There's Paul Millman just getting ahead and back into P6. Alex Smith has another issue here. I can maybe see why he wants to sit. Well, he wants it, that's what I put. Maybe if I would have forgotten again. That might. I mean, you're still in the lead of the championship, so I wouldn't worry too much. This might be one of the dropped rounds for the drop score, shall we say. Barry Clayton running in P4 though, but Guy Swarbrick certainly hunting him down. Just a couple of tenths faster on that lap. Again, so at this phase in the race, it's Guy who seems to have the upper hand. Just does he have? It's one thing to catch up, and another thing to complete the overtake. So we'll have to wait and see if Guy is able to do that with the pace advantage he currently has in the car, as Alex Smith drops into the pits once more. .1 second still separating these cars. I want to have a look actually in the terms of the straight line performance. Which car is looking stronger? And I must admit they are looking very even indeed. Both in the DRS, Guy Swarbrick in the slipstream as well. So the likelihood is Barry Clayton has the ever so slightly stronger car in terms of a straight line. And that might be why some of that pace is coming in. That is an interesting interpretation, shall we say, of the track limits heading into the penultimate corner from Guy Swarbrick there. And maybe some time to be found, potentially. I think the issue is that you ride over the curb so much, the back end probably gets quite unsettled and doesn't really want to grip up out of the corner. So I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't too much of a pace advantage into doing that there. Alex Smith, what tyres are you running on, and are they meant for a Formula 1 car? Because it looks to me that you... Oh, as Guy Swarbrick has a big off there, that is a great shame. Running very nicely in this race indeed. Putting that pressure on Barry Clayton and unfortunately cracking under a little bit of his own pressure perhaps. Dropping off the course, heading into the first corner there. Matt Daly, meanwhile, building his race lead, of course, fighting for the race lead in race 1. Wasn't able to get it in the end, but was very much consolidated it here in race 2. He goes purple on this lap. Loses a little bit of time for another second, I'm sure it will be strong in the final. But yes, that is a great shame for Guy Swarbrick. And Alex Smith, yeah, that car looks like it has zero grip at all. I suspect no aero left on that car, and as I say, it looks like he's on some cheap tyres that he might have got from the country we're currently racing in, because that car has no grip at all. I'm only saying that because I'm ashamed to say that currently my Alfa is running on some cheaper tyres, shall we say, and it's well with the blue spark and plenty of torque from the 1.4 multi-head turbo engine. It's a when you put the power down, the tyres certainly let you know that you're putting the power down. And I suspect that Alex Smith is getting the same sensations in that car at the moment. So just a quick rundown as we head into the final 5 minutes of this race. Now it is Matt Daly who leads winning list P2. Andrew Brammer running in P3. Another spot on the podium for him. Once more, a good weekend for Andrew Brammer in the end. We've said it so many times, but I'll say it again. Andrew Brammer is just always there and great at picking up those podiums. It's just something he's good at. He's either at the upper midfield or on the podium. And he gets rewarded with a decent amount of points as a result. Then we have Barry Clayton in P4, Guy Swarbrick P5, Paul Millman P6, Alex Smith P7, and Alan Thomas rounding out the running in P8. Big off there for Alan Thomas, who has actually a fairly substantial hit with a wall. About 60 miles an hour he went into that barrier there. Rejoins the track. There is Alex Smith. Actually, no, he isn't rejoining the track. He's rejoining one of the runoffs there. Apologies there. Perspective slightly confusing. Barry Clayton, meanwhile, is 3 seconds ahead of Guy Swarbrick now. So Guy Swarbrick has been able to keep up pace. He was slower on this lap, actually. Guy Swarbrick was in the 42s. Barry Clayton in the 39s, but given he had that big off earlier, I suspect without that big off, we could have seen quite an interesting battle. Actually, no, apologies, the time system was off. It's about 10 seconds, give or take, where we are on track. No, it's about 3.5. The timing system's having a bit of a moment, and as a result, so am I. But, yes, Guy Swarbrick relatively close, which is a shame, given that small off he had a couple of laps ago. He would have been very much in the mix there, as Alex Smith's car is doing something which I suspect isn't PG-13 to a sausage curb. He is back underway. That's fine. Apologies there for the slight diversion, shall we say, in the commentary. I've just come back from the Bookmore 24-hour commentary. I was part of the commentary team there, and let's just say as you head into the early hours of the morning, it becomes less about the racing and more a podcast between 4 commentators who are very delirious, very tired, because there's not much to talk about in terms of the racing, so you just kind of say whatever. It's certainly a different type of different style of commentary to what I'm usually used to. It's good fun. Speaking of 24-hour events, I will be taking part in one in about a month's time. I'm pleased to say that I will be running some Alfa Romeo racing leagues, some AROC racing leagues livery on the kart and on my suit as well. So be sure to send pictures of that for all of you who are interested. If you want to see me have catastrophic incidents on track, then be my guest. Still seeing very close running between Barry Clayton and Dice Roll. Just 90 seconds to go in this race now. As the timer hits 60 seconds, it has been Matt Daly who's led for quite a while now. It has been a strong lead. He's still setting personal best and purple sectors, of course, in the 37s at the moment, but I suspect he's about to set a 36, so we might stay on board with him for this lap. Of course, the tyre's potentially wearing out a bit, although the C1 tyre is well suited to this track, it seems. So the tyre's slightly wearing off, but of course the fuel load at this stage will be very light indeed, because this is quite a fuel-intensive circuit, is Shanghai. It requires a lot of wide-open throttle for quite a while, and especially if he's a little bit more keen on the energy recovery for this circuit, it could be a strong late lap for Matt Daly here. Losing out in the middle sector, let's see what he can do in this final sector, though, has he conserved a bit of energy to push on in the straight. We're going to find out in just a moment. That was a strong lap indeed. It was a 1:36.3, his second fastest lap of the race so far. A great effort from Matt Daly there, as this will be the penultimate lap of this race now. I saw because just had a massive collision with a wall, actually. That should cost him. It cost him a complete and utter removal of the front wing, actually. He's able to carry on, but will be coming home around the P5 mark, so it seems, if he is able to avoid any further incidents. The timer does hit 0, so this will be the penultimate lap of this race, and what a race it has been for Matt Daly in the end. Doing what he wasn't able to do in race 1, he leads from Will Inglis with Andrew Rammer in P3. The podium doesn't look like it's changed at all from race 1, and it looks as if nothing has happened, but I can tell you that is not the case at all. It has been a strong race for our podium runners, of course running up from the lower end of the order, given that this is a reverse grid race. Heading down that back straight, all on his lonesome, is Matt Daly. Still deploying that DRS, of course, and building up a gap. I suspect Will Inglis has had a little bit of an instant on this lap. Yep, that appears to be the case. Head now onto the final lap of the race. It is an 11-second lead for Matt Daly, so let's enjoy a bit of a Matt Daly parade lap to round out a great weekend's worth of race running. So here we have Matt Daly heading down the back straight for one last time under race conditions, and I suspect we're going to get some victory donuts here, and they will be thoroughly deserved victory donuts, a treat that he has very much earned as he heads through the final corner. Tried to do this in race 1. Will Inglis was strong and was able to compete. However, Matt Daly won out in race 2. He weaves across the line in celebration as he takes race 2 victory here in Shanghai. Congratulations, Matt Daly, an impressive drive, a 13-second lead. The C1 tyre working well, and he was relentless towards the end as well. Here we have his victory donuts, and Will Inglis crossing the line in P2 now as well. A great weekend for Will as well. Wasn't the easiest of race starts in either race, actually. Fought and defended well in race 1, just wasn't able to quite bring the same fight in race 2, but nonetheless a great weekend thank you for those high-speed victory donuts. Matt Daly there, Will Inglis joining in the fun as well. Andrew Brammer rounding out the podium, another podium for him. A strong weekend here in Shanghai, some great pace on display. Excellent racecraft, just kept his head down, kept the nose clean, and has been rewarded with two strong finishes there. Barry Clayton comes home P4 in the end. Alex Smith will be classified P7, Alan Thomas is classified P8. And then we have Guy Swarbrick. A little bit of a late race battle with Paul Millen, but he heads around the final corner. A couple of incidents, unfortunately, robbing him of a battle for P4 and at one point the podium as well. It will be Guy Swarbrick coming home P5, Paul Millen coming home P6. As we have Will Inglis completely annihilating his rear tyres, just like Matt Daly there. Victory donuts for everyone, it seems. This is a good victory donut showing, much better than last weekend's running, so thank you everyone for that, as we have a puncture for Andrew Brammer there. And I hope you've enjoyed watching as much as I've enjoyed commentating this evening. We'll see you next week for round 9 of the touring car running, and then a fortnight's time for round 10 of the single-seater action. But for me, it's a good night. Thank you very much.